Okay, we're going to wait about a minute more to let everyone join the class, and then we'll get started. All right. Hello and welcome to Adobe InDesign Advanced Book Creation. My name is Caitlin Tips. I will be assisted by my chat facilitator, Anna, today. Please say hi, Anna.
Hello.
Today, we will be covering more advanced features of book creation in InDesign. We will go over copyright and ISBN acquisition and other more advanced book creation considerations. All right, so jumping in, I did previously teach a basic version of this class where we covered the basics of InDesign document setup, page numbering, drop caps, and consistent styles. If you have any questions about these during this class, I am more than happy to go over them again, or feel free to look up my previous recording of that class. So to jump right in, copyright. What is copyright? It is the first form of protection that your work is guaranteed in the US Constitution and granted for original works of authorship, fixed in a tangible medium of expression. Copyright covers both published and unpublished works. This is different from patents, as those cover inventions and discoveries, and it's based off of the Copyright Act, which helps define literary works and provides legal legal protection for your work. However, it is important to note that copyright registration is completely voluntary. It lasts the entire duration of the author's lifetime plus 70 years after the fact. Registration can be done in the US at copyright.gov and can be completed up to 3 months after publication. However, because copyright is voluntary, it exists from the moment a work is created. So if you have a book that you have written and it's not published yet, it is still protected under copyright. However, the reason why it's good to register your work with a copyright is because it becomes a part of public record. And if you ever wish to pursue a lawsuit for infringement of copyright, that work must be registered. All right. And below here, this last line, the copyright symbol with the year and author name, is an example of a basic format of copyright in a book. However, there are numerous templates, free templates of copyright out there that you can use for that typical page in your book. Any any questions about copyright?
None yet.
So ISBN or ASIN, what are they and why do you need them? So ISBN is an international standard book number, which is made up of 10 or 13 numeric digits. It's a unique book identifier assigned to separate editions and variations of a publication. This is really useful as it makes self-publishing appear more official. It also makes it has a benefit for cataloging and identifying specific editions of books when you're searching for them. A con of the ISBN, however, is that it does cost money. Baukers is the official distributor in the US of ISBN. Typically, the base cost of an ISBN is $125. However, you can buy ISBN numbers in bulk for a reduced cost. So if you know that you're publishing more than one book, more than one edition, it may be worth it to purchase an ISBN in bulk. However, if you are only going to publish one, it's probably worth it only to purchase one. Now, there are ISBN numbers that are free, but they don't fall within the official registration of ISBN. An ISBN number also never expires, so you can always purchase it and use it later if you know you're going to pursue self-publishing. Now, an ASIN is an Amazon standard identification number, which is typically 10 alphanumeric digits. It's a unique identifier for product identification within the Amazon organization. So a pro of that is if you're going the route of Kindle book publishing, an ISBN is not required for any Amazon publishing. However, a con of that is that you would still need an ISBN for outside Amazon access. So there's pros and cons to both, and it definitely depends on what route of publishing you want to go. But ISBN and ASIN, they definitely assist you in having a more reputable official publication. Any questions?
None so far.
Cool. All right, so now I want to jump into the standard book sizes. And before I do that, it's something I mention in almost all of my classes in regards to anything dealing with print. If you're printing anything and creating it in InDesign, it is always important to know what your printing service capabilities are. Always important to reach out to your printer and know what they can do, what they can't, and what your budget is at the start. Because certain printers will have limits on their trim sizes that they can print. They'll have a max page count in some cases, or they may have hidden fees. So it's always good to have a good relationship with your printer, especially if you're doing self-publishing. So below are some standard sizes, also known as trim sizes, or various genres. So as you can see, books come in all shapes and sizes, and we at the library know that as well. But when you're designing a book, it's hard to figure out, oh, do I just do a letter size for my book? Am I just doing a manuscript? Or do I want to, in fact, go smaller or larger based on the material? So these are just some standard guidelines for sizes based on the genre. So fiction, and this is anywhere from 4.5 to 6.87 inches, something like a romance paperback to as big as 6-inch by 9-inch, which could be like a Penguin classic. But moving on, some things to consider when you're doing your trim sizes are word count, genre, and cost. So word count's important because if you have a huge word count or a smaller word count, the trim size can actually really affect the marketing of your material. So if you have a smaller word count, but you want to appeal to an older age group, you can choose a larger trim size to still appeal as a heftier material. Whereas the same thing with a huge word count, you could go somewhere in the middle in terms of trim size to make it still appear more accessible. Genre, like I mentioned before, like a romance paperback. If you're going for a Harlequin or Avon romance book vibe, you don't want to publish that in a huge 8x10 book. It's not going to match with that audience their normal perception of what that book size looks like. So it's very important to match genre perceptions when you're considering the design of your book. And of course, cost, because page count, inking for the cover page, all of that cost for printing does add up. More pages, more money. So just again, stick to your budget and also know what you want. Margins and fonts. So why selecting the right fit is important. Your margins. Regardless of what size your book is, if your margins are too tight, it could cause words to be cut off due to binding or printing constraints. And if it's too loose, you may have awkward reading spacing. Now, at the top and bottom of each page with your margins, you don't necessarily want to have it the same as your inside and outside margins. You want to accommodate space for a running header or running feet. You also need to know where your page number location will be so that you can accommodate that in your spacing. And fonts plays a huge role in this as well, because if you go smaller with your font to try and fit more word count on a page, that could in fact make it harder for your reader to read. Same goes if it's too big, it could in fact increase your printing cost, as you'll actually run into more pages for the word count. Now, knowing your format, your book format, whether it's going to be a print or digital format, is also important for fonts. Serif is going to be something like a Times New Roman font. It has a tail on the end of the letters. That is typically recommended for print. So something like Garamond or Georgia. Anything with a serif is going to be much easier to read in print. Sans serif, like the font that you see here, Arial, is easier to read online. I don't know the specifics behind that, but it is the industry standard for recommending that. Okay. Now I'm jumping into some InDesign features that I'm going to go over in this class today. So master pages, we are going to really focus on building those consistent elements, like having consistent first pages of chapters, our headers and footers, where our body text is located on each page, the page number location on each page. I'm going to go over how to utilize guides to line up everything consistently. And I guess I duplicated the page numbers, but you can automate those to where you don't have to worry about it on your actual text. This is a panel I'm going to go over quite a bit, as it shows where you can insert pages, move pages, override all master page items. And one of my favorite sections, this middle section here, create alternate layout and numbering and section options. Create alternate layout is a function called liquid layout, which allows you to create one single document and preserve all the editing and styles on it. So say that you formatted it for a hardback edition, but you also wanted to have an ebook edition. Create alternate layout would allow you to preserve your styles created in that document and convert it to an ebook readable edition. You would still have to go into that layout to accommodate or adjust for that fit, but it makes it a whole lot easier and less time consuming than having to recreate it individually. Numbering and section options is very beneficial for your chapters and page numbers. So with that in mind, we are going to jump into InDesign. Any questions?
None yet. I think once we get into the meat of the InDesign, we'll have some.
Cool. whoops. I didn't mean, okay. I guess it opened a old document. Okay. So when you click Create New in InDesign, it's going to pop up with this menu. And because our focus today for this class is going to be print, I'm going to select Print. And based on those previous trim sizes that we discussed earlier, I'm going to go ahead and do my own style, and I'm going to do the 6:9. And I want facing pages, as facing pages is a feature that when you fold and open your book, it mimics that order. Now pages, I'm gonna say that we have a 270 page book. Something I'm going to show later as well is book files. And book files are a way to not have a huge file. It pulls from multiple chapters into one document. So I'll go over that a little bit later. All right, but now we have our margins, which, as I discussed earlier, we can't really have them all the same. And 1/2 inch may be a little too small for our binding. Always check with your printer to see what their binding guidelines are. So I'm going to change that to 1, and I clicked this link over here to make sure that all settings are not the same. Clicking that would change all of them to 1 inch, but that's not what I want, so I click that. And I will change the inside to 1 inch. I want the outside to be about 1/2 inch. The bottom can be 1 inch and the top can be 0.75. Now there is a specific way to calculate the ideal size for your trim, your book size, but generally it's always best to go to your printer, see what their guidelines are, because whatever you calculate may still not match what their capabilities are. Now, bleed and slug are not really anything we're going to use. Bleed may be something that we use for the cover page, but we're not going to include that in this document. The bleed allows you to create an external edge. You're basically telling your printer to print an extra 1/4 inch so that when they cut it down to your desired book cover size, you have an image that goes all the way to the edge. So you have no white lines. But we don't need that for this document, so we're going to leave it at 0. And slug is really, if you have specific printing instructions, that's when you would create a slug to type those instructions. So maybe on a cover page, we would include a slug with some specifics, but for this document, we won't. All right, so I always review everything one more time. We're going to call this book example and create. So now you can see I have my pages panel open. I'm going to scroll down all there. And now we're going to jump into our master pages. So this 2-page that you see here in the pages panel, this is what's known as a spread. And clicking on it will take you specifically to that page. So if I actually wanted to go somewhere else in the document, double click, and it would take me to that page. So I actually don't really want to be in my actual document right now. So I'm going to click back on my master page. And this is where I already know that I want to create a couple different master pages. So first and foremost, if you click this plus symbol, that's one way to create a new page. Because I was in the master pages, it created a new master. However, I only wanted a single page. So I can actually pull up the master options for B master. I can change the name to chapter page. And I can change that to 1, because for the purpose of this example, I'm going to make the first page of a fiction chapter. So with this page selected, I know with the text tool over here, I'm going to go ahead and at the top, I'm going to create a text box, and I'm going to go back to the selection tool, and I'm going to click that. And if you drag it on the page, you see pink and purple lines pop up. So the pink one shows you where it's centered on the page. Because my margins are different, where I actually want it to be centered is that purple line that pops up between the margins. So this is centered within the space that I've indicated all my printing will be. So I'll leave it there. And for the purpose of just placeholding, I'm going to type A. So that's where I want my chapter number to be. And then I can type right here. Well, I'm going to use my type tool, and I'm going to drag down like so. And I have a text box now that fits. Now that's just basic setup. And then if I were to drag this, say, to the very first page, you see in the page, it now is a B. So that means that master setting has been applied there. But I'm not done with this. The setup is not quite done. There's a little bit more to do. In fact, there's quite a lot to do. I don't have any page numbers. So this is where it can be a little tricky. If you know that your document has multiple chapters, like most do, you will want to indicate whether your chapter page is going to always start on the right-hand side of your book, or if you're okay with a chapter beginning on the left-hand side. That again comes down to your printing and page preferences. I've seen both in books, and if you're okay with it just beginning where the previous chapter ends, it doesn't matter so much, but it does impact where you place your numbers. So I'm going to scroll down just a little bit so I can see more of the bottom of my page. Now, of course, that doesn't matter if you put your page number in the center of the page, but if you are going to have your page number be in the lower right-hand corner for the right-hand side or lower left, then those are important things to consider. In fact, what I might do is go back to my pages panel, and what I can do is actually duplicate this master spread, and then I can actually change the settings. So master options, and say chapter page left, and I can change the other one to right. But there's multiple ways to do things in InDesign. Just because I'm showing one way, that's never going to be the only way to accomplish something. Another way you could do this is actually change the spread to 2 pages and have one first page on the left and right because you can drag specific facing pages to the desired page. However, what I think I'm going to do is actually show you how to do a center page number, except that won't match with the rest of the book. So what I'm going to do is actually edit the page attributes. I'm going to increase that to 2. And then I'm going to apply those features there. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that. All right. Copy. Paste. And you can see that helpful guides again pop up. When you move these items around on the page, you see the purple margin again, so everything's lined up. And this moved, so we'll move that back within the margins, and we'll move this again back within the margins of the page. And the reason why I changed that again, just to go over that, is in fact because I want to make sure the page numbers are automated correctly when I apply this specific chapter page settings to those subsequent books. So with that in mind, we're going to select that text tool again. And in this lower corner, we're going to drag, we're going to type A again, and then we are going to scroll over and down, and we are going to do the same thing and type A. We can adjust those later. This is actually again where I would use guides. So if you drag from your ruler at the top, a blue line will appear, and you can actually use it to line up things where you want it. So again, the same on the left-hand ruler. I'm going to click and drag until I get it even with the margin. And I'm going to select my text box and actually drag it in between. And then whenever I scoot on back over, I see that the guide goes all the way across the other page. I'm going to grab another guide, even it with my margins, and I'm going to make sure that it lines up. Another thing you can do is make sure that that is aligned to the right to make sure that it fits the same place as the other page number. So I will actually do this again on my body text master pages. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Insert Special Character. I'm going to go to Markers and select Current Page Number. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Right click, Insert Special Character, go to Markers and select Current Page Number. And then for chapter numbers, you can do the same thing, or what I actually would recommend doing is just making sure it's the accurate size. And then when your chapter page is selected, I'll show you how to update that manually. Well, not manually, but if you try and add the chapter settings here by right-clicking, you're not going to get the chapter number settings. Or if you try and go up here to type in your window and go to number and section options, it's normally grayed out on the master page. However, if we go to that first page, we've already applied it, and we select double click. Actually, this is a master page item that we've selected. So if you Control Shift click, you actually make that item accessible on your regular pages, and then highlight your text. And if you right click the actual page, you'll have numbering and section options appear. Click that, and you can actually have your document chapter numbering selected there. So that's what we want to apply. Want to start chapter numbering at 1. Okay. And okay. So that's going to be way too small for our actual purpose. So we're going to go up here to font. And this is where it's important to kind of decide what feel you're going for your book. So if this is print, we want it to have a serif. And I'm really old school, and I really I'm actually going to go with Garamond, and I'm going to increase this font size to, let's try 60. And then we're going to actually center that. Let's click our arrow. So I actually now think that's too high, and I want to make sure that I adjust that on my master for all future ones that I add. And this is actually where I can create a specific character style. So I'm going to create a new one. With that, again, selecting in my panels, correct character styles. If you don't have that open in yours, that's okay. You can go up here to Window, and you can select Styles and open any of those panels. If you see any panels I have open here and you're like, where is that? Everything is under Window. So double clicking character style will open a new window, and this is where you can go ahead and define some things for your book. So we don't have any previous style, but what we can do here is go ahead and highlight that we want Garamond. The font style is regular. We can go ahead and create a couple different ones here. So we don't want just character style 1, because if we create another one, it's just going to be character style 2, and there's really nothing defining the purpose of it. So we're just going to say right now that we're creating a body text, and we want that to be a standard size of 12. All of these other features here, we don't really need to worry about at the moment. We're just going to say okay. And already you can see that having that highlighted adjusted that A placeholder text that I had there. And this is actually where I'm going to go back over to paragraph styles. I'm going to add another paragraph style, select that, and I'm going to base it off of basic paragraph. But because I want this to be a different size and I want different features, like I want this centered, for instance, I'm going to go to indents and spacing. It's the 4th one down on that list. And I'm going to change the alignment from left to center. And then I'm also going to change the style name to chapter style. And it doesn't hurt to go through and just view what these other tabs are if you've never seen it before. You may not need it now, but it's fun to know where they are. This is also what I used to create a drop cap style in my previous class, where you can specify lines and the amount of characters and such to get that sizing that you want. But right now, because again, we're focusing on the chapter number style, we're going to complete that. We also want the size to be larger. So this is our basic character format. So it's set to 12, but we're going to go ahead and increase that to 60. And we're going to say okay. And if we highlight this again and we select, well, hang on, chapter number style, that didn't adjust the size. Like I said, there's always a million different ways to do things. I think because I had pulled this from this previous size, it didn't change that, which is okay. We'll create a new one and call this chapter number. And this is where we'll increase it to 70, 60. Say okay. And for paragraph styles, we want to open that back up and make sure that we are pulling from that basic character format. Okay. So now when we select this, when we select chapter number style, it mirrors it automatically. So that's much easier than just having to go through the same thing over and over again. And then when we go to our page numbers down here, all we have to do is actually select our body text and click and highlight, select body text to have the consistent font. And the same goes actually for our text boxes on this page. Select body text, select body text. And we're going to take it one step further by actually, well, actually I won't get into that yet because we need to first, like I said, we're doing multiple master pages and we came back here to adjust where our chapter numbers are on the page because this is a little too high actually. So that green line there helps us line it up. If you click and you click shift, you can move them at the same time. And I'm actually going to use the arrow keys on my computer to get these where I want on the page. I find that when you click and drag things on the page, oftentimes you may move it farther or less than you like, or just erratically. So if you want more precise movement, I would recommend just using the keyboard keys on your computer. Now clicking off of that, I'm going to open the Pages panel again real quick, and I'm going to go to my A master. I'm going to double click because what I actually want to do here is I'm going to set up the body text of our document. So I'm going to select the type tool here, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to go to the other page, and within the margins, again, I'm going to click and drag. Again, those lovely helpful green lines that help you know that you have consistent spacing. I'm going to go ahead and create some guides by clicking the rulers and dragging so that I get the same placement of page numbers as I did previously. And if you're unsure about where your previous guides were, always double check. So this one's lined up about 8.5 inches. So I can click and go back to the other page and see that I'm a little high. And so you can actually still, oh, whoops, don't want the text tool. If you're gonna adjust your guides, always go back to your black arrow tool and then select and just lower that a smidge. Again, this is not exact, this is not precise. This is where it looks pleasant to you, always have someone else kind of look at it and say, that looks a little low or a little high. You can always adjust things. I'm going to go back to my text tool and I'm going to click and drag. I go ahead and type A, or actually in this case B, now A, and then I'm going to click over. I'm going to drag another guide down to match that other one. It's a little high again, so didn't get it quite exact. And if I'd grabbed in the center of the document, I would have had a single ruler come down. I think that would have helped me out a little bit more. But again, we're going to line up the margins and we're going to make another text box for our other page number. And this really does save you a lot of time. Doing this manually on every single page is a pain. I'm just going to be honest. It's a huge pain to do this individually. So by taking the time to set up your master pages like this, you're saving yourself a lot of time in the long run. This is where, again, we're going to highlight. We're going to right click, insert special character, markers, and current page number. We're going to go back over to the other one, click, insert special character, markers, current page number. This is also where we're going to highlight. We're going to go up to our top ribbon, or if you have your switcher set to essentials, it may be in your right panel. Or if you click paragraph options, it just moves it closer, more so on the left of your top ribbon. And we're going to make sure it's aligned right. The other thing we're going to do is we've already created that character style. We're going to change it from none to body text. And we're going to actually go back over, highlight, and make sure that that is set to body text as well. Now this is where we can have a little bit of fun. So we have our two body text pages set up. If we click that black arrow, you will see on your page in the lower right of your box, this larger white box. This is a very helpful tool to understand how much text you have loaded in your frame. So if you click this, it actually loads text. What you're doing when you click another text frame is you are linking them. So now in this top left-hand corner, you see an arrow with a script underneath it. And what we've just done is link our first page to our second page. So when you have overset or overflowing text after loading it into your document, it should automatically flow to the next frame. And in just a moment, I'll show you how that actually works. But we've got a couple more things to set up, and then we'll get into that actual example. What we want to do is go back to our pages panel, our chapter page, and we're going to select the text box there. We're actually going to, we won't link this panel just because within your document, just to make sure that it's more precise, it's easy to have it a little confused when you're linking your text. It all depends on how you set up your original document. So you could link this again to the next A-frame. If you did that, again, you'd click this lower right-hand box, not the upper left-hand one, but the lower right-hand. And then you would double-click the next page, and it's going to say no. It's going to say don't do that because we've already linked this to the next. So it does make that next part a little bit harder, but not much. when you're linking and flowing your text in your document. Any questions so far?
No, no questions. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Okay, so we have our chapter page. We have our body text. How do we place our content in after that? Let's go ahead and try something out. So we're going to select our first page here. We're going to close the panel. And all right, because this was on our master page, it's going to be grayed out. So to, again, break that, we're going to Control or Command Shift click. And for the purpose of this example, I'm just going to show you how to place and filler text. So you can go to Type and Fill with placeholder text. Now, because we've already established a character style, this was imported with our desired font. And again, just for funsies, I'm going to show you how to add in a drop cap real quick. We're going to open paragraph styles. We're going to create new. We're going to double click. Go to drop caps. This is a refresher from my last class, but it's a lot of fun. If you select preview here in the left corner, you can kind of go ahead and see what that looks like. And if you wanted the entire first word, you could increase that to the entire first word. Again, this really depends on what type of book you're writing. I actually like the look of that pretty well. So I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to rename that drop cap. So we're going to select OK. And now you can see that I have a plus symbol on this box. And so what I'm going to do is select my direct arrow. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to scroll down to my next page. And if, again, clicking and dragging can be very erratic, which is why you will see me rinsing and repeating a lot, going back and forth between pages in the Pages panel. So I'm going to click page 2 and going to close my Pages panel, and I'm going to scroll up because that took me awfully low. I'm going to Control Shift click to get that original body text there, and I'm going to load the rest of that text into that panel. Now again, what I can do, click, go to Type, fill with placeholder text, and you can see it filled in the next page. Pretty cool. However, if you do actually have your book written and you're wanting to place in your content, say you wrote it in a Microsoft Word document, how you would go about that is there's a couple different ways. You can go up here to File and Place, which opens it opens a panel file document just like you would for inserting a graphic. In this case, this is for text or graphics, but we're wanting to import text. Another way is to use keyboard shortcuts of either Command or Control D. It's going to open that again. And we are actually going to go up here to my desktop, I believe. Advanced example files. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and go back here and use my lorem ipsum. So this is a Word document that is more placeholder text that I've created, and it's going to auto flow the text into this document. Hopefully, we'll see. Because I had a text box selected, woohoo, excellent. Now we're going to go to our Pages panel, and see, wow. So for the number of pages I had in that Word document, it went ahead and placed it into the document. Now, as you can see, it's not all the same style. So what I can do is Control A to select everything I currently have on the pages. And this is more than just a spread. I can then go to Character Styles and select Body Text. And it is automatically adjusted. So like I said, master pages are really and truly awesome for getting those consistent styles. Another way you could do that is a little bit, in my opinion, more convoluted. It's not as easy, but you can override all master pages in a document spread, select all target spreads, and then choose to overwrite all master page items. I think that risks more unlinking items than all. Now, because we've filled in with so much text, I want to show you what would happen if we have another chapter. So let's say that this page here is actually a chapter page. We're going to go to pages. We're going to go back up to our B chapter page, and this is a right-hand facing page. So we're actually going to drag this down to this spread, and I know which page I'm on because that page spread is highlighted in the Pages panel, and I'm going to apply that there. And what I want to do is actually right-click, and I'm actually going to override all master page items. So that I can take my black arrow and manually adjust this where it needs to be. Or actually, it's a little higher. So what I can do is drag that up. And this is where the layers panel is very beneficial because it will show you where things are on that page. So this, I believe, is my unused text frame. It is, I deleted it. Helps me clean it up, make sure I don't have anything overset, even if it's empty. And just by selecting P right there, I can again go to character styles and apply, or paragraph styles, pardon me, and apply that drop cap. And then selecting the A and going back to pages here and right clicking on the page, I can go to numbering and section options. And here in the document chapter number, I'm going to do automatic chapter numbering. We're going to try OK. Oh, whoops. Okay. This is where it tries to pull from a book panel. Not necessary to do it that way. It's a little bit more complex, but again, book panels, book files are useful if you have extremely long books, like 600-page books, or I would say anything more than maybe 400 pages, you might want to consider using a book file. So we're gonna right-click, number section options, and this is 2. Okay. Didn't automatically apply, but it should have. All right, so that kind of gets over the basics of how master pages are useful. You have consistent elements, automated page numbering, and we were able to auto flow in our placed previously written book. Now, what I want to go ahead and show while I have this example open is how you could take what you have written here and change the format to a liquid layout. So we're actually gonna just click anywhere and we're going to create alternate layout. It pops up with this new screen here and it pulls from what you already have, but we can actually change it to anything here. So if we wanted to do a smaller paperback version, this is where we could adjust the layout. Or if we wanted to make it mobile friendly, we could add in the, pardon me, I had something caught in my throat. We could adjust it here for a mobile view. So we could actually change it to something like 2 by 6 inches or 3-inch by 6 inches. So we want to preserve the existing rules. We want to link stories and we want smart text reflow. That's going to save us a little bit of work. So we're going to hit OK. It's going to load. And in our pages panel, it's going to appear as a separate layout. So now we have layout C. And it won't be exact. We may have to adjust some things again, but as you can see, at least it's all there. We will probably have to adjust our margins here, and that's actually fairly easy to do by just going up to File, Document Setup. Cancel, because I actually, let's see here. We're going to delete the alternate layout. I forgot to adjust the margins, so that's my bad. When you create alternate layouts, it's not just the page size. You can adjust the margin so that when the text reflows onto it, you don't have this large overset into your pasteboard. So my apologies, I forgot to adjust for that. Because we are running low on time, I'm going to jump into another example. But if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask. All right. InDesign's still loading a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about book files. Now, book files are an InDesign tool to save multiple files under one single grouping. Like with paragraph styles and character styles, this really does allow you to have a consistent application of styles, and it allows you to synchronize all of your book files from a master style. So if we were to take this document and say that we wanted to add it to a book file, what we could do is go up here to File and New, and in the list of suggestions is Book. So we're going to select the book. We're going to name it Example Book 1, and we're going to go ahead and save it in this folder. Now, this opens the book panel, and we can drag it here. This is a previous one that I have that has linked example chapters. Now, this example one has nothing in it right now. So if we click the plus down here in this panel, this is where we can actually add in our examples, our files. So this is 1 through 300. My other example, you can see it's 25 pages and has different chapters. In this first one, this indicates the style source. And if we were to go ahead and open that, as you can see, I just filled it with placeholder text. But if I wanted to apply a different paragraph style to it, I can actually load character styles from other documents. So if I click this file, oh, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Yes. So in style group 1, I'm going to click this 3 lines here in the upper right hand corner, and I'm going to load character styles, and I'm going to go up here, samples, and I'm going to pull it from that file. So it identifies everything in that file, and I want everything. So check all. We're going to say okay. And woohoo, there we go. We have a new folder, and that has other styles already preloaded from our other document. And we can do the same thing here by opening it and seeing, okay, awesome. Now, the fun thing with a book and having multiple files is you get a smaller file size. There's still going to be individual files and you can synchronize them, but when you go to open them, if you have limited space or internet speed or anything else like that on your computer, if it's running slow, breaking it up by chapter and just synchronizing the styles and having a consistent master page style will mean that InDesign is free to move a little bit faster and load things faster. Any questions about the class today? All right, I think that's time. But thank you all for joining us today. I really, really appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks so much.